In the dark underbelly of an unnamed city, where the streetlights cast long, sinister shadows, and danger lurks in every corner, a drama unfolds. A drama that would sear itself into your mind as the ultimate testament to courage and justice. Today, my friend, I want you to picture this scene. A setting that's raw, gritty, and so real that it makes your heart pound with anticipation. An elderly man ambles down a dimly lit alleyway. His gait is slow, his back hunched over from years spent laboring for meager means. Each step he takes echoes ominously against the brick walls encasing him on either side. He's just another face in this urban jungle, invisible to most, but not all. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a group of thugs emerge from the shadows, faces obscured by hoodies worn low over their eyes. These are men who have chosen to live outside society's rules, men whose souls are stained with countless wrongdoings. The air around them crackles with menace as they loom closer to our elderly protagonist. Their laughter echoes through the narrow alleyway. It's harsh, cruel, and devoid of any humanity, as they begin their ritualistic dance of intimidation around their hapless prey. But unbeknownst to them all is a silent observer hidden within those very same shadows. A man forged by war and hardened by life. A man who has seen too much darkness yet chooses light time after time. A man known only as Rambo. His gaze upon them is sharp. No movement escapes his watchful eye even as his presence remains undetected. Every muscle in his body tenses at once, while flashbacks from past battles surge like thunderbolts through his mind. Jungles ablaze under napalm skies, screams muffled beneath gunfire, ghosts of fallen comrades haunting him relentlessly. Yet amidst this turmoil within him, a fire sparks to life. A resolve as steady and unyielding as the man himself. Each thug's taunt, each cruel gesture they throw at the elderly man only fuels this flame until it blazes into an inferno of righteous fury. Just when you think the tension couldn't possibly escalate further, Rambo steps forward, his silhouette barely discernible against the city's gloom. His hand clenches tight around a familiar object, the hilt of a knife that has seen more bloodshed than any blade should ever witness. The thugs are oblivious to their impending doom. Their laughter still rings out mockingly in the still night air. The elderly man is unaware of his silent guardian angel. His eyes reflect fear and resignation, but not hope, not yet. In that moment right before chaos breaks loose, time seems to stretch infinitely. Every breath sounds amplified. Every heartbeat feels like a drum echoing through the alleyway. Every drop of adrenaline pumping through veins tastes like raw power ready to be unleashed. Then, in one swift move, Rambo steps into view. No longer just a shadowy figure, but an embodiment of justice that strikes fear into hearts that knew none before this moment. His eyes meet those of each thug individually, making them shiver with an instinctive understanding that they've awakened something primal and unstoppable. As for our elderly protagonist, well, he looks up from beneath furrowed brows only to see his tormentors frozen mid-laughter, their gazes fixed on something or someone beyond him. For the first time since those men cornered him in this godforsaken place, he dares to hope again, because Rambo was watching. Now comes your part in the story. Will you simply remain another silent observer? Or will you join us on this journey where vengeance meets redemption under neon-lit skies? Because remember, my friend, what happens next isn't just a tale to be passively heard, but an experience to be lived and felt with every fiber of your being. An experience that will make you question the boundaries of right and wrong. An experience that will force you to confront your own fears, and perhaps even discover your inner Rambo. So hold on tight, because this isn't just any story. It's a high-octane, adrenaline-charged ride through a world where justice doesn't always wear a white hat, but sometimes carries a sharp-edged knife instead. Welcome to our city under siege. Welcome to a night that changes everything. Welcome to thugs harass an elderly man, unaware that Rambo was watching. As the last streaks of sunset fade, the city starts its descent into darkness. The neon signs flicker on one by one, casting long shadows that dance menacingly along the grimy streets. Our stage is set. It's just another night in a city under siege. Picture this. Rusted cars lined up like silent sentinels. graffiti-splattered walls whispering tales of struggle and survival, and the palpable tension hanging heavy in the air. You can almost taste it. Danger with a dash of dread. In an alleyway off Chapman Street, an elderly man shuffles forward under the weight of not just his grocery bags, but also decades' worth of memories spent in safer times. His wary eyes dart from corner to corner as he moves painstakingly slow through this urban jungle. There's no mistaking it. Fear has taken residence in his heart tonight. Suddenly, out of nowhere, 3 figures emerge from the darkened corners. Street thugs who've made these alleys their personal hunting grounds. They circle around him like ravenous wolves eyeing their prey, laughing and jeering at their unexpected catch for tonight. Now freeze that frame for a moment. Let me tell you something important here. This isn't just another tale about a city spiraling into chaos or about innocent people falling victim to lawless predators. No, this story takes an unexpected twist. Seated atop a weather-beaten fire escape nearby is none other than John Rambo himself, a resident vigilante who's been watching everything unfold below with steely eyes that have seen far too much violence in one lifetime. Unbeknownst to those thugs below, they're about to get served justice Rambo style. But wait, let's rewind slightly and revisit our protagonist's backstory here for context. His time spent fighting wars beyond borders taught him more than just survival skills. It gave him an undying spirit and unshakable moral compass. Retired from service, he's chosen this city as his home, vowing to protect it from the very anarchy that threatens to consume it. Back to our alleyway now, where the elderly man is cornered against a graffiti-laden wall. The thugs are closing in on him. Their ugly laughter echoes through the silent night air, a cruel soundtrack to their impending crime. But hold your breath, because our vigilante isn't just sitting idle. He swiftly descends down the fire escape, his boots barely making a sound against rusted metal stairs. His hands reach for that well-worn knife strapped to his side, a weapon not of aggression but of protection. He's closer now, the vile laughter growing louder with each step he takes towards them. His heart doesn't race with fear but throbs steadily with determination. Just when one thug reaches out towards the terrified elderly man, Rambo steps into the dim light. His silhouette enough to strike fear into their hearts. But they're too engrossed in their sadistic amusement to notice him yet. An error they'll soon regret. In one swift movement, he grabs the first thug by his collar and throws him onto ground. A clear message delivered without uttering a single word. This ends now. The other 2 whirl around in surprise, only to meet Rambo's steely gaze. Eyes that have stared death itself down without flinching. Now imagine how quickly arrogance turns into panic as they recognize who stands before them. Their expressions shift from shock, then terror, and finally surrender. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Our story isn't over yet. It's merely begun. It's about more than just good triumphing over evil. It's about reclaiming peace and restoring faith in humanity within chaos-ridden streets. It's proof that no matter how far a society might fall into lawlessness or despair, one person can make a difference. So, as you continue to visualize this scenario unfolding, remember that it's not just a tale. It's a testament to the power of courage and resilience against all odds. This is Thugs Harass an elderly man unaware that Rambo was watching. A story worth telling and retelling. Because in our world today, we could all use a little reminder about the strength of human spirit and the importance of standing up for what's right. Stay with me as we delve deeper into this epic saga where every moment counts, every action matters, and where heroes rise from unexpected places. The night might be long and fraught with danger, but rest assured it's far from over. As our story continues, I want you to picture a scene. It's the end of a long day, twilight is setting in, and an elderly gentleman strolls down a deserted alleyway. His movements are slow, weighed down by the burden of years, but his eyes still hold that spark of resilience. He holds onto his dignity tightly like it's his only lifeline. Suddenly, out from the shadows slithered 3 figures, thugs with no respect for life or decency. They saw him as nothing more than an easy target, someone they could harass without facing consequences. But what they didn't know was that their actions were being watched by another pair of eyes. once hardened by war and strife, those belonging to none other than John Rambo. You remember Rambo, right? The man who became synonymous with relentless bravery and unrivaled combat skills. He was watching this unfold from across the street. He was supposed to be laying low after his last mission, but seeing injustice ignites something inside him. The first thug approached the old man with a malicious grin on his face while the others held back laughing among themselves. The elderly gentleman paused for a moment before attempting to walk past them, but was shoved roughly back into place. Rambo's fists clenched at his side as he observed this blatant show of disrespect and cruelty towards someone who couldn't defend himself. For Rambo, this wasn't just about one old man. It represented every innocent person ever bullied or harassed by those who assumed they could get away with it, because their victims appeared weak or helpless. Deciding he had seen enough, Rambo stepped forward, emerging from the shadows like some avenging angel from an action thriller movie. Except this wasn't fiction. This was very real. The thugs turned toward him, surprised by this unexpected interruption in their fun evening plans. With a voice as cold as steel slicing through winter air, Rambo warned them off. But these men were too foolish, too arrogant to understand the danger they had just stepped into. They laughed at him, not knowing that their laughter was about to be cut short. In a flash of movement almost too fast for the human eye to catch, Rambo disarmed the first thug who had pulled out a knife. His years in combat had made him an expert in hand-to-hand fights even when outnumbered. The second thug lunged at him but was promptly thrown off balance and incapacitated within seconds. The third one hesitated, fear creeping into his eyes as he finally realized who they were dealing with. But it was already too late for them with his comrades down. He attempted to escape, but Rambo wouldn't let this injustice go unpunished. With precision and swiftness of a panther hunting its prey, Rambo caught up with him, ensuring this night would forever serve as a reminder of their encounter and hopefully steer him onto a path away from such nefarious deeds. When the dust settled down, Rambo turned toward the elderly man, offering a comforting smile like calm after stormy weather, assuring him that he is safe now. The old man, looking bewildered yet grateful, nodded towards our hero before continuing on his way home. No words were exchanged, but none needed to be either. As you can see, my friend, heroes do rise from unexpected places. Sometimes they come garbed in muscle-ripped tees carrying war-hardened scars, while other times they might simply appear as everyday people standing up against wrongs happening around them. Because remember, every action counts zones. This story isn't just about how Rambo saved an innocent old man from being harassed by thugs. It's also about how each of us has the capacity to make a difference if we choose not to look away when faced with injustice. Whether it's helping someone cross the road or standing up against bullies. Being a hero is not about having superhuman strength or fighting skills. It's about showing kindness, respect, and standing up for those who can't defend themselves, just like Rambo did. So next time when you see something wrong happening around you, remember this story of Rambo and the elderly man. Choose to act, because every moment counts. Every action matters, especially when they are directed towards making this world just a little better place to live in. You're walking with me now, down the grimy streets of a city that has seen better days. The sun is sinking behind the concrete jungle, casting long shadows that seem to hide more than they reveal. You can almost smell the tension in the air, a mix of fear and defiance like gasoline waiting for a spark. Now picture an elderly man, Mr. Jenkins, we'll call him. He's no different from your own grandfather, perhaps. Kind-hearted and full of stories about the good old days. His hands are gnarled from years of hard work. His back slightly hunched, but there's still a twinkle in his eye as he walks down memory lane. But tonight, memory lane is littered with threats in the form of thugs who have mistaken his kindness for weakness. They surround him like vultures circling their prey. Young men filled with misplaced rage and arrogance, unaware that their actions are about to echo louder than any words could. Across the street, though, someone else is watching this unfold. Our very own Rambo. Now, if you know anything about Rambo, you'd realize he's not one to stand idle while injustice takes place before his eyes. Our story takes an interesting turn here because remember those long shadows I mentioned? Well, one such shadow detaches itself from its concrete canvas and starts moving towards Mr. Jenkins and his unwelcome entourage. It's none other than Rambo, looking every bit as menacing as you'd imagine. The thugs continue their verbal assault on Mr. Jenkins, but there's a sudden shift in energy as Rambo steps into the circle of tormentors. His presence seems to suck out all noise, leaving behind an almost palpable silence. Rambo doesn't need words. He believes actions speak louder anyway. With lightning speed suddenly incongruous with his age, he immobilizes two thugs instantly, while others scramble backward, tripping over each other in their haste to retreat. He moves like a predatory animal, swift, precise, and terrifyingly effective. Meanwhile, Mr. Jenkins looks on, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. He's seen Rambo's kind before, warriors who would go to any lengths to uphold what's right. But never had he imagined he'd be at the receiving end of such fearless protection. While the defeated thugs lick their wounds and scatter, Rambo turns back towards Mr. Jenkins. There are no congratulatory words or heroic speeches. Instead, there's an unspoken understanding between them. A moment that transcends language and touches the very essence of humanity. But don't be mistaken. This isn't just about an action hero saving an elderly man from thugs in some forgotten corner of the city. This is about you and me and every single one of us, because we've all been either Mr. Jenkins or Rambo at some point in our lives. Maybe you felt helpless when confronted by bullies, or have watched someone else being bullied without knowing how to intervene effectively. Or maybe you've stepped up bravely when it mattered most despite your own fears or doubts. The truth is that heroes aren't always dressed in capes or camouflage pants. Sometimes they wear faded jeans or wrinkled business suits. Sometimes they are old men with twinkling eyes filled with stories about the good old days. And sometimes they are stern-faced individuals who refuse to let injustice prevail even when it would be easier to turn a blind eye. So next time you find yourself walking down memory lane, just remember this. Every moment counts. Every action matters, especially when directed towards making this world a better place. Whether it's standing up against oppressors like Rambo did for Mr. Jenkins, or showing kindness where others only show apathy, these seemingly tiny ripples can create waves of change if only we choose to act. It doesn't matter if you're an elderly gentleman, a hardened warrior, or just someone trying to make their way in this crazy world. We all have the power to make a difference. So, let's not wait for the Rambos of the world to save the day. Let's be our own heroes and inspire others with our actions, because at the end of it all, we are not defined by what happens to us but how we react as Rambo walks away from Mr. Jenkins into those long shadows again, he leaves behind more than just defeated thugs. He leaves behind a spark, one that can ignite courage in even the most timid hearts, and remind us that no matter how dark things get, there will always be those willing to fight for what's right. And remember, every moment counts. Every action matters.